All right, let's talk about the Chiefs playing the Bills. I mean, come on, this is what football is all about, right? Should be an awesome game. The second time these two teams have played each other in a conference championship game recently. Back in 2020, the Chiefs blew out the Buffalo Bills, but this is a different Bills team and this is a different Chiefs team. So let's talk about what will happen this time. First, just so you know how this is going to work, I'm going to talk about Patrick Mahomes going up against this Bills defense. We're going to get into some numbers, then we'll get into some film. Finally, I will give my predictions on how this side of the ball will go. In a future video I'll post tomorrow, I'll do the other side of the ball, and in that one, I will give my final thoughts and my final, score prediction on that one. So yeah, let's just get into it. First, let's use some PFF grades to familiarize ourselves with these two teams. You see some really good grade. Well, actually, honestly, not great grades for either of these teams. In some areas, there's good grades. So 31st ranked coverage for the Buffalo Bills. We'll get into player by player in a second, but PFF not crazy there. 13th ranked passing, 20th ranked receiving. Worth mentioning, there has never been a team, since I went back and tracked the data in the past, I believe it's like 20 years at this point, that has finished with a below average receiving core grade that has made the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are trying to be the first. Last year, they just made the cut. This year, they're below that cut. So that's interesting. Can they make history, I suppose, with this fascinating stat? You assume at some point a team will be able to. The pass blocking is 13th for the Chiefs and 6th for the Bills, but I think it's actually a little worse than that might show. We'll get into that a little bit in a second. Bills' run defense hasn't graded well, but has played well these past couple of games, and their overall numbers are good. So maybe it's one of those, they don't grade well, but they put enough resources into it, it still works. I don't know. But the Chiefs do run the ball pretty well. 15th ranked rushing, but 7th ranked run blocking. They've been a good run blocking team. So first, let's go with the offensive line, which this is the chart I made last week, which is, we'll talk about it. So if they wanted to have everyone play their natural position, DJ Humphries, who hasn't had many snaps this season, could be the left tackle. You then have Thuney, and the number you see next to these players' names is where they rank in terms of PFF grades. You see that Thuney ranked 7th at the guard position, Creed Humphrey 1st, Trey Smith 10th. It's a really good interior. Juwan Taylor, not a great right tackle, is better in pass protection, though. Here's the interesting thing. And the three players you see below, you have Wanya Morris, who I just put on the list, but he's probably not playing because I don't think they'll do that. You have Mike Caliendo, who is a guard, and what they have done and what they did in the divisional round was they put him in at left guard, and they moved Thuney to tackle. Now, in doing that, it essentially means that you're only really having two players that are great at their positions, Humphrey and Smith, because Caliendo hasn't been a great guard, and Joe Thuney, the numbers you see at the bottom of the screen when he's playing left tackle, he has a 58.9 PFF grade when he is playing tackle, as opposed to the 73.4 grade when he's playing guard. That's regular season. That's not counting the divisional round. But yeah, I mean, it's a big. He wasn't great in the divisional round either at tackle. So you're essentially, if you put him in there at tackle, your left guard situation isn't great, your left tackle situation isn't great, and your right tackle situation isn't great. There are ways to get to the quarterback. And as for the Bills' defensive line, again, these numbers are where they rank according to PFF grades. They've had a good pass rush this year, and it's been really on the strength of, first, Greg Rousseau, who's kind of, I feel like, their star player on their defensive line right now. He doesn't get a ton of credit, but he does a lot to blow things up. Ed Oliver, really good on the inside. Dwayne Smoot, PFF isn't crazy about. The same thing with AJ Espinoza, but also the addition of, or I shouldn't say the addition, but the reemergence of Von Miller, who what they've kind of done is just put him in more of like a third down role. They've kind of let him be a primary pass rusher at this point in his career, and he's really excelled in that role. He's been 11th highest ranked, which almost makes you wonder, should you put him in more, have more snaps? At the same time, if you do that, will that go down? Will its efficiency go down? I don't know. But Daquan Jones, Austin Johnson have both been good. It's a good defensive line, and this is an advantage for the Bills. In fact, this might be their biggest advantage on defense. In fact, it is their biggest advantage on defense. If they can get pressure on Mahomes, that is a way that you can help beat any quarterback. Heading over here, this is the Kansas City Chiefs receiving core, and the two stats you see here are their PFF grades versus man, and their yards per route ran versus man, and then same thing versus zone, PFF grades and yards per route ran. Travis Kelce, you see him at the top of the list with really, and again, kind of the interesting thing about the Chiefs is a lot of these players are really similar, whether they're going up against man or against zone. There's not a massive jump either way. So on paper, the Chiefs are pretty much just as good when they're playing zone or playing against zone as when they're playing against man. But the Bills have some differences here. You look at their coverage unit. This is, again, their PFF grades and then their passer rating against when they are in man and then when they are in zone. You see Rasul Douglas, his PFF grade is somehow just 28.6 when he is in man coverage, so that's like a horrible grade. It gets much better in zone. Christian Benford's been really good whether he's in zone or in man. Taron Johnson, though, definitely better when he is in zone. He also has a really bad grade when he plays man. Cole Bishop, hasn't been great at the safety position according to PFF and according to, he has over 100 passer rating against whether he's playing man or zone. Damar Hamlin has been better at man, not great in either though according to PFF. And then Taylor Rapp, who we don't know if he'll play, he got banged up in the last game, but he's definitely someone who's a little better in man, not great numbers against when he's in zone. The reality is, there's not a lot of good numbers, period, with this Buffalo Bills coverage unit. There just isn't. Part of me wonders, do you just try and play some zone coverage here? I know Douglas's numbers aren't great against zone. The issue is, we've seen time and time again, the Bills have tried to play their zone coverage against the Chiefs and just gotten dominated. Like, that's usually what's happened. That happened last year, and a lot of people crushed them for that strategic decision. But if you try and play man, you really don't have the guys to man up. But the good news is the Chiefs don't have a dominant receiving core, so maybe they can't take advantage. So this is not great on great. This is, honestly, I feel like okay against bad, which is an interesting situation for a conference championship game. Also, the blitzing stuff is interesting. Patrick Mahomes' numbers do go down when he is blitzed this year. His PFF grade when he's not blitzed is 86.2, and his passer rating is 95.6. You see both of those numbers go down when he's blitzed. The Bills blitz fifth least in football, but the last time these two teams played, they did blitz a decent amount. So that's notable, is Sean McDermott isn't totally afraid, and one of the things I've really been impressed with him this season is my critique of him in years past is I feel like he's too afraid to change what he does. In this postseason, he has changed what he does. He's willing to, he hasn't completely reworked his scheme like you would see Bill Belichick do in the postseason, but he's tweaked things, and he's kind of tailored this stuff to his opponent, which in the past he wouldn't do as good of a job as. So I think we'll see more blitzes in this game, and I think we'll see more man coverage on third downs. This list that's probably going to be hard to see because there's so many players' names on it is the last time these two teams played, these were the passing stats for the Chiefs. Mahomes was 23 for 33 for just 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. You'll rarely see him have a statistical day that poor. One of the interceptions we'll get into. You see, though, just how many Kansas City Chiefs players had catches in this game. 11 total players had a catch, including Peyton Hendershot and Mike Caliendo, who I just brought up, who will probably be playing guard in this game. He had a catch for 5 yards. Xavier Worthy, though, 61 yards. Other than that, nobody really did much, and I think the biggest thing to note, Travis Kelce, only 8 yards, although, again, Travis Kelce in the regular season and Travis Kelce in the playoffs, they're two different players. So, not a great statistical day the first time. Not sure if you can bank on that again, though. The running game, they were able to have a couple of nice runs. They didn't get a ton of consistency, though. 14 carries for 60 yards for Kareem Hunt, who's had an all-right season for them. So that's, I think, notable. But let's get into the film, and let's actually talk about something that I didn't bring up in those numbers, which is Mahomes is rushing. Mahomes, one of the things that we always talk about is the difference between Mahomes in the regular season and in the playoffs is he becomes much more of a dual threat in the big games. He's more willing to take these hits, and in a game like this, he will be willing to move with the football. So you see that the Bills are in a zone coverage concept. Mahomes is going to take the snap. He looks around, and he notices that, hey, don't love what I see down the field, and to be honest, he could just flip this one to Travis Kelce underneath. He probably should have, but he's going to try and scramble out, which is something that we've seen him do a really good job of. But the Bills kind of know at this point how Mahomes operates. They played him enough times. There's enough players here that can say, hey, if I see him, and they're coached enough to say, hey, if you see him start to move, be ready to make a tackle. You're just as much when you are, rushing the passer against Mahomes, you're just as much playing run defense as you are playing pass rush. As you see, DaQuan Jones makes some contact, and Mahomes throws an ugly interception, which, he had a guy open, he realized last second, but because of the contact, throws the interception. Listen, I'm not saying you can count on that in the conference championship game, but you can at least make sure you don't let him use his legs. So it's still a good job. And, I'm not saying you can't get turnovers as well. Mahomes is someone who will turn the ball over, once or twice in the playoffs. That is part of it. But also, let's go over here. So if they want to play man coverage on a 3rd down and 4, what is the reason why you wouldn't do it? Well, one reason why maybe you wouldn't do it is because, you have 5 guys not paying attention to Patrick Mahomes. That means that he could rush for a 1st down on 3rd and 4. How often have we seen him do that? You're going to see that when this play begins, watch Terrell Bernard, though, on this play. So Mahomes looks down the field, doesn't love what he sees. The Bills' coverage unit is winning, which, again, it's not the most difficult to win against. It isn't. Mahomes is going to do what he does, try and scramble, but the Bills are ready for this. The reality is, this is what the Bills need to do, I think, is they need to, when they play man coverage, have a spy on Mahomes. I don't know why teams don't do this more frequently, but this is something that could be an advantage for them. And then also something like this. It's the left tackle situation, which has been an issue all year for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, again, this is where football gets weird, right? Because in a big spot, maybe Joe Thuney will do a great job against Greg Rousseau. This is not a player who is going to play for the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. So it's, again, I'm just using this as an example of what could happen. I'm not looking at this and saying since it happened last time, it'll happen this time. But as you see, Rousseau is going to quickly win his matchup, and then he's able to get to Mahomes, and while he doesn't bring him down, Von Miller does, and that's also going to be part of it, right? And kind of why I maybe don't love the idea of taking Thuney out of the guard position, because if one offensive lineman misses their block, usually Mahomes can handle that. If multiple guys miss their blocks, no quarterback can handle that, and that's how you can get them on the ground. So those are some advantages for the Bills, but obviously there's a lot of advantages for the Chiefs as well. First, the zone coverage thing, which, I think the Bills are going to play a decent amount of zone coverage. It's what they always do against Kansas City. I would, if I'm a Bills fan, I would like to see more man coverage. But you see right here, it's a cover 3 zone, and this is just Andy Reid. First, you have a receiver running a route, just trying to clear out the area. But then watch Xavier Worthy right there. Watch what he's going to do on this play. Watch as, despite him being in motion, he then runs through the offensive line, is able to get to where that area has been cleared out, and get a touchdown there. The reality is the Chiefs are so good at scheming up against zone coverage. It's what's happened every year in the playoffs for the Bills, is they try to do this zone coverage stuff, and it just doesn't work against Kansas City. They're so good at this. Honestly, even something like this, a more simple play, but it's still something that they're really effective at, where it's going to be a zone coverage play. You see where Worthy is, just trying to get past the sticks on a 3rd down and 4. Mahomes takes the snap. He's going to look in Worthy's direction, quickly makes that throw, and they're able to get all the way to the 10-yard line. Again, honestly, I wouldn't hate the idea of, if I'm the Bills, drop a defensive lineman back into coverage, see if you can get a pick there. I don't think that's impossible, but at the same time, the Chiefs are so good at this, and Mahomes is so good at it. I don't know if he'll fall for it. Usually, when you play zone coverage against the Chiefs, you lose. That's just the reality of the situation. I know the numbers this season are similar, but there's that matchup with Mahomes going up against this Bills team in particular. But if you play man, I don't think the Chiefs are dead. Like I said, I don't love the Chiefs playing against man coverage. I think this is the better concept to try and play against them, but it's certainly not a guarantee. This is going to be Taron Johnson, who's one of their better corners, going up against Xavier Worthy one-on-one. As you see, Worthy just has speed, gets the inside leverage, runs by him. As of right here, there's just separation. So this is a lost rep by Johnson. Mahomes, of course, is going to make that throw. They get the big completion there. So that's step one, right, is they can have guys win. But part of it, too, is just the Mahomes factor, right? Over here, this is Justin Watson, really a depth receiver who every now and then will make some plays for them. Once again, going up against Taron Johnson, interestingly enough. But you're going to see it's, again, a one-on-one matchup. Mahomes is going to take the snap. He rolls out towards the top of this, or towards the bottom of the screen, and just makes a great throw. I mean, that's just Mahomes, right? Like, give credit to Watson for making a pretty tough catch, but that's just what Mahomes can do to you. So those are the issues if you're if you're a Bills fan, is like your corners are going to have to step up. I still feel like, though, these plays are contested plays, and that's what you want. On these obvious passing situations, that's what you need to try and force. But also something like this, where this is going to be a 1st down and 10, the Chiefs don't love obvious passing situations. Despite having number 15, the guy who has won 3 Super Bowls already before turning 30 and trying to win another one this year, obviously, has never been knocked out before the conference championship game. They like to dink and dunk. They like to try to, stay balanced. Here you see this is a nice run. This is what they're going to try and do in this game, is they're going to try and run the ball effectively, and they have at times been able to kind of slowly, methodically move down the field. In fact, that's their ideal formula in a game like this, is to dink and dunk their way down the field, which is why I think it really comes down to the run defense a lot for the Bills. They're 2 really interesting teams, in my opinion, because I do kind of trust the Bills in like an obvious passing situation, at least some in this game. But I trust the Chiefs a lot on these slow, methodical plays. Like on a play-by-play basis, I think the Chiefs should be okay. So that's why pass rush is going to have to come through. You're going to have to get some run stops, force 3rd down and 10s, and then hope that you can just stay competitive down the field, especially in a cold weather game, which is possible. So final predictions page here. The Chiefs' offensive points per drive on the year is 2.33. The Bills' defensive points per drive is 2.11. Actually, only a little bit off of where the Chiefs are, if you believe it. The Chiefs are 2.0 defensively. The Bills are 2.11. The defenses haven't been that different this season, points per drive wise, which is crazy because I do feel like the talent has been different. But all that matters is results. What do I think the results will be here? Well, the first time it was a 2.33 points per drive. I'm not betting on that happening again. Interestingly, that the first matchup was exactly what the Chiefs do on average this season. I do think playoff Mahomes is different. I think that the addition of Mahomes' rushing will help. I think the addition of playoff Kelsey should help. I think this will be a better game. I'm going to go 2.7 points per drive. I think the Chiefs will move the ball well in this one. Will it be enough to win? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to my next video when I tell you what I think the Bills will do. In that one, I will give my final score prediction on who I have going to the Super Bowl and winning the Lamar Hunt Trophy. Let me know your thoughts of all of this in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.